Hello, hello. My goodness, it's 9:01 actually. Usually I am right on time, but tonight it says 9:01. I hope that, oh God, look at that thing. Okay. Hi, Susan Ann. How are you? Here come our friends. Yay! Everybody knows it's 9 o'clock. Yay! It's Wednesday. It's 9 o'clock. It's time for Food Addiction Fair and Firm. Woo, I'm telling you what, I just got home and made it here in the nick of time myself. So thank you for being here, sharing your time with me tonight. I am super excited tonight. Man, I'll tell you what, Wednesdays are a blur because I fly into Augusta, not literally, I drive into Augusta, and I go straight to a yoga class because I am so loving my yoga, y'all. I'm telling you, I'm loving this yoga. So I go Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday night to yoga, which is super cool for me. Anyway, so I go straight to yoga, and then Wednesday night is my night to put one of my daughter's girls to bed. So then I go to her house, and I leave by 8 or 8:15, and I come home, and I get my stuff in here, and I throw myself down. I look over my notes, and whoo, it's 9 o'clock. And here we are. And I'm pumped about tonight's topic. I'm going to be talking about powerlessness and what that means in terms of recovery and in terms of food addiction and how people mess up the use of that term and stay away from recovery because of the word powerlessness, and I'm not powerless and I can do what I want, and all that inner rebellion we have going on sometimes. And we're going to talk about what that term really means in the 12-step world. And I want to say again that I'm not pushing the 12 steps, although I do love the 12 steps, the recovery process in the 12 steps. But if that's not your thing, no problem, because what I'm really interested in is you being healthy, you being in some kind of program of recovery, some sort of healing from addiction. So if that's through a 12-step program, if that's through Celebrate Recovery, if that's through Smart Recovery, many roads to Rome. Find the one that works for you. But we are going to talk about powerlessness tonight. And I was wondering, I'm just going to ask y'all a question, just kind of, type in a little response over here. How many of you actually, first of all, do you believe you're a food addict? Yes or no? How many of you think, yep, by God, I'm a food addict. That's me. Hey, Bunny. I love it when you say, hey, coach. Still cracks me up every time. Do you guys think you're a food addict? Anybody? Anybody think you're a food addict? Susan Ann, thank you. Yes, you think you are. I believe I'm a food addict. Anybody else think they're a food addict? Okay. Lots of people joining in. Lots of people saying, yes, I'm a food addict. If you believe that you're a food addict, do you believe that you're powerless over your addiction? What do you think about that? Do you believe you're powerless over your addiction? And what are your thoughts? What are some thoughts you have about what powerlessness means in terms of your addiction? Let's see what somebody's saying. Okay. Sometimes powerless. Is that what that's meaning? Yep. Powerless because I'm a food addict. Yes, I'm powerless. Sometimes, okay, at times. There's a lot, not powerless, just hard. Okay, no, not powerless. Honestly, yes, powerless. Okay, so I'm going to explain to you kind of where the terminology came from and how it's used really in the recovering community, the professional recovering community, and not necessarily just the professional recovering community, but the 12-step recovering community. And then I want you to listen with an open mind, all right? Because, sorry, I got this cough thing. Can't decide if it's coming or going, but I'm in favor of it going because it's not round one, right? So I apologize for little coughs that are going to sneak out of me during tonight's episode. Okay, so let's talk about this powerlessness. And I'm going to give some examples. People sometimes don't like the term just the term powerlessness because of what that implies. If powerlessness to you implies, I'm weak, or there's something I can't do and I'm not going to accept there's something that I can't do, then you're probably going to struggle with the concept of powerlessness as it's used in the 12-step community. And in the 12-step community, this concept of powerlessness really is what they consider to be the first step in reclaiming your life, in reclaiming what they say is sanity. And what they mean by that when they say sanity is kind of mental clarity. We've talked a lot of times about how food or alcohol or other drugs of choice or going on a shopping binge or pornography or whatever, the escape is, whatever the way to avoid a lot of reality, whatever that means is, it's a way out, of dealing with reality. And for a lot of people, that creates a lot of havoc in their worlds. Maybe not initially, but at some point in the life of a food addict. There's oftentimes obesity, not always. Lots of food addicts are not obese, but a lot of times there is, and that creates weight problems. A lot of times there are issues with relationships, because when you are captive to a substance, that substance is truly your primary relationship. It's not your spouse, it's not your children, and there's going to be a tendency to rebel against that statement, but it's true. Because the thing you probably think about most often throughout your day, if you're a food addict, is your food fix. If you're an alcoholic, your alcohol fix, or your drug fix, or your porn fix. Whatever your fix is, that becomes over time, because addiction, remember, it's chronic, it's progressive. So it gets worse over time. It takes up more and more of your brain, more and more of your thoughts, more and more of your time over the course of the disease. So it becomes your primary relationship in life, and it can interfere with participating in activities with your spouse, your children, your partner, your work community. You might be hiding at your desk to eat. You might be finding excuses to stay home when the family's doing things so you can have time with your food, whatever it might be. It's progressive. So it's only when we admit that we've got a problem that we can start becoming aware and healing from that problem. So think of powerlessness maybe like this. Have you been able to lose weight? Probably yes, right? That causes a little bit of problem with this concept of powerlessness for a lot of people, because like an alcoholic might say, I can quit anytime I want to. And they may be able to quit for periods of time. If you're not physiologically addicted to alcohol, like I was not, I didn't need to drink in the morning. I didn't need to drink every day. I could take it or leave it. Except when I took it, I couldn't leave it. In other words, when I drank, I couldn't find the off switch. There was that chemical effect on my brain, and I couldn't stop. When you start with sugar or carbs, it doesn't necessarily mean you go on a binge right then and you just have to eat everything in sight. But does that trigger a desire or a want for more? So for example, I can quit anytime I want. People tell me all this time in bariatric evaluations, I know I can quit. I've quit carbs before. I lost 80 pounds. I quit carbs. You didn't quit carbs. You postponed carbs. Because the minute you let them back into your life, you tell me you regained that weight. So, are you powerless over that? I don't know. What I believe is that if your food addiction has led to a point where you needed to have bariatric surgery, or you needed to join in on some family therapy, or it was causing problems in your relationships, or it was causing problems with a job, or it was causing problems with any important social or recreational or professional area of your life, I'm going to say you're powerless over it. Even though you think you might control it at times, if you eventually regain that weight, or if you eventually return to carbs, or if you eventually return to your unhealthy patterns of eating, where did your power go? All right, stick with me, all right? Don't give up on this discussion just yet, right? Here's another problem with this powerlessness thing. We all know that denial is a big part of addiction. And as addiction begins to overtake your life, there becomes a layer of denial. We start to make excuses. I posted something yesterday about what are the ways you sabotage yourself. And a lot of people talked about the excuses they make. And they talked about, the ways that they allow, they just procrastinate, and they, make up stories for themselves. It's really a way of lying to yourself or utilizing denial, which can be also thought of as a form of protection, which is a more fair way of saying it. A firm way of saying it is you're engaged in the addiction process and the use of denial. Now, a lot of people, and sometimes this makes it more difficult with food and food addiction than it does, for example, with alcoholism or with drug addiction, because drug addicts, food addicts, sex addicts oftentimes hit rock bottom more quickly or more obviously than food addicts do. Let me explain. If you get a series of DUIs, right? You've got court costs, you've got family problems, you've got work problems, you got all these problems, and there's no denying that it's related to your drinking, and it's a series of serious problems, right? Clearly related. You don't have power over your drinking because you continue to do the same thing over and over and expect different results. That's what recovery addicts call insanity, right? Doing something different, doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. For a food addict, it may be, I think I can start to add carbs safely back into my life. But if you've got that brain that says, I'm allergic in a way, or my brain chemistry changes when sugar or processed foods or refined carbs are added to my diet, guess what? You're back doing the same things over and over again. That's insanity. If it's causing you a problem and you think you can safely introduce it again at a later time, that's part of the denial, that's part of addiction. Or let's say there's a sex addict and they get a public exposure charge, or their partner finds them engaging in pornography time after time after time after they promise they'll quit, and they promise they'll quit, and they promise they'll quit, and they truly want to quit. But addiction says, I'm more powerful than you. I am more powerful than you. And we don't want to say, yes, you are more powerful than me. Then why do I end up here every damn time? Why do I keep ending up back in this spot where I'm doing things that go against my values, where I give in to things that I say I will never do again, where I break promises I make to other people and to myself? Maybe you are powerless, right? So rock bottom for a food addict might not even be, let's say it's an obese person who struggles with food addiction, and they have bariatric surgery, And that's not even rock bottom, even though they've got diabetes and high blood pressure and high cholesterol and sleep apnea, and their diabetes is really getting out of control. And so they have bariatric surgery. But like I tell you all the time, weight loss surgery does not treat food addiction. If you have bariatric surgery and you have the disease of obesity, that's one disease. If you have addiction, that's two diseases that you're dealing with. You have bariatric surgery, but you're not aware of this addiction yet. You've treated the obesity, but if you find yourself going back to those same old habits, is what people say, when the reality might be you succumb to the powerlessness of your addiction, and then you regain. So maybe it's not until the point that somebody's had bariatric surgery and they regain and they've got all these health problems again that they wave the white flag, throw down their hands, throw up their hands, I'm powerless. It's happened again. I can't beat this thing because addiction is more powerful than you are, my friends. It just is. They say it's cunning, it's baffling, and it's powerful because it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense that we would go back to those old habits or the eating behaviors of an addict when we've had bariatric surgery. It doesn't make sense that people would go to treatment for alcoholism and spend thousands and thousands or hundreds of thousands in treatment centers and going back to do the same thing unless you're powerless. Now, here's part of the problem. Powerlessness doesn't mean that there's nothing you can do, all right? We are powerless. We were talking about control the last couple of weeks, right? The serenity prayer. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. Those things you cannot change are the same things over which you are powerless. The weather. You can't change the weather. You have no control over the weather, i.e., therefore, you are powerless over the weather, right? You are powerless over how other people think. You have no control over how other people feel. You have no control over how somebody might react to something you say. You are powerless over those things. Okay, Connie, I can kind of go with that. I'm maybe powerless over those things, but I'm not powerless over me. I have control over me. Well, let's dig further, all right? But I want you to understand that if you have an addiction, if you truly have an addiction, I believe you are no more able to overcome your addiction with willpower. Have you tried willpower to battle addiction? I'm betting you have. How long has willpower won over an addiction? So part of the word willpower is power. So because willpower doesn't work, that does kind of suggest that you're powerless to insert your will over this problem. Because if that were the case, if we could willpower our way past an addiction, then we wouldn't return to it time and time again. All right, you have a disease. Somebody who has cancer, somebody who has diabetes, somebody who has any disease you can think of cannot willpower their way over that disease. Now, I'm not saying you can't use a lot of positive thinking and a lot of positive affirmation and a lot of visualization. I am a big believer in those things, and I believe they help. However, in addition to those things, we need medical and mental health professionals, right, to treat diseases. Obesity is a disease. Addiction is a disease. Those are both diseases for which we seek treatment. Spiritual help, emotional help, physiological help, medical help, right? Humility. Part of being humble. I love the definition of humility that I heard one time. I don't even remember where. But it was owning the things you're good at and accepting the things that you're powerless over, right? So I really suck with numbers, math, geometry, algebra, whatever. Humility says it's okay to say that. I don't have to be ashamed of that. Humility says, I'm an addict. I don't need to be ashamed of that, but I also don't get to use it as an excuse. And that's a problem that people, that's the double-edged sword of this powerlessness thing, right? The truth is, if you can say, and I wrote a blog about this, and I'm actually going to write an article for a magazine called Recovery Today, which I would suggest that you download. It's free. It's an online magazine. That's for another story. But I wrote a blog, and it talked about the relief. I think I titled it, I'm an addict, what a relief, or I'm an alcoholic, what a relief. Because when I figured out, when it made sense in my head and my heart that I'm an addict, that I'm an alcoholic, that I'm a food addict, that I am a drug addict, I didn't use it as an excuse and say, I'm powerless, what am I supposed to do? I used it as a way to say, well, that makes sense. Now I understand the reasons why I continue to do things that I don't want to do. I go against my values. I go against my meaningful matters. I do things that hurt the people I love. I do things that hurt myself physically, spiritually, emotionally. My body, it's like the insanity made sense. That wasn't an excuse. It was okay. Now I know what the problem is. Now I can treat it. It's like finally getting a diagnosis for, diabetes. Now you have a plan. Now you have, there's a protocol, a medical protocol that you can follow. Now I know what the problem is. It's like finally you understand a math problem or a math equation, and you're like, oh, now I know how to figure out what this silly little X is and what this A is and why they use the alphabet in math. I'll never understand. But anyway, there's some sort of sanity to that for people who get it. But once you get it, you can say, now I can use the power that I do have and that I can get from other people to help me through. Because I can't willpower my way through something that's bigger than I am. But I can use the power of my knowledge and my logic and my circle of friends and my circle of support and the support groups that are available to help me follow the protocol. That's where my power comes in. When I accept that I'm powerless over this disease, which has gotten me every time I tried to play with it. All right, hang on. Let's go with this. Some people use, but I'm powerlessness as an excuse. And I'm going to tell you a story where I was present with a family member who I love so very much, whose partner is a drug addict. And so for years, there have been, there's been education and there's been Al-Anon and there's been treatment. And so there's a lot of head knowledge about this disease, right? So this family member who is a smoker and will say, I am addicted to nicotine. I'm addicted to smoking. I'm addicted to tobacco. I guess it's nicotine you're technically addicted to, right? So we're having this huge discussion about the partner and the partner's addiction and recovery, and it's my sister. So my sister is the cigarette addict, and her partner is the drug addict, and I love them both dearly, and they are both working recovery programs. But I'm sitting there with my sister, and she's talking about her boundaries with this addict in her life and how they can't use that as an excuse for, not doing what they're supposed to do in their recovery and blah, blah, blah. Makes perfect sense, right? Not even 5 minutes later, she lights up a cigarette. She lives in an apartment complex where there is no smoking allowed on the premises. There is no smoking allowed, and if you're caught smoking in your apartment, you are evicted. Serious consequence. And I'm like, what are you doing? You know what her response was? And I'm not kidding you. This is the denial and the power of addiction. She says, well, I'm an addict. I'm like beating my head against the wall going, we just had this discussion and you have all this knowledge about how your partner can't use addiction as an excuse. You're sitting here telling me, but what am I supposed to do? I'm powerless. I'm powerless. It's an addiction. I'm like, oh my God, you can't have this both ways, right? You don't get to use powerlessness as an excuse because it is not. It is not. It is not. You have the power to call a friend. You have the power to get online and ask for help. You have the power to throw up your hands and say, I'm powerless over these things. I need help. Those are the kinds of power you do have. But the minute you give in, and you get that chemical in your body and it affects your brain, the disease, the powerlessness of the disease compounds. So powerlessness is not an excuse. Powerlessness means I can't willpower my way through this. And I'm telling you, you will never willpower your way through an addiction. You just won't. So the idea of powerlessness when it first came into the 12 steps was that by myself, I haven't been able to do this. I have not been able to willpower my way into a program of healing. The power of the 12-step programs comes from a higher power. That higher power does not need to mean God. It can mean other people. The power of the group, the power of the help, the power of the support, the power of the understanding of other people that have been down the road. That's where the powerlessness and the power came in to the 12-step program. I'm powerless by myself to willpower my way through this. This disease is powerful. It overtakes my logic. It overtakes my rationale. It overtakes my values. I am powerless when this substance is in my body to make logical, rational, healthy decisions. I need the power of something bigger than me. I need the power of my tribe. I need the power of those who have been down the road and are successfully healing from the addiction. So once you understand the difference between I'm powerless over willpowering my way through this, and I have power to use the powers greater than me to help me utilize my own personal power, then you can work toward moving forward. So I hope that makes sense. You didn't ask for this disease. You have this disease. You are powerless over the disease as a disease process. It's going to take hold of you if you're engaged in it actively. You are not powerless to do something about it. You have the power to reach out and get help. So I'm going to challenge each and every one of you, because knowledge, they say knowledge is power, right? What I say is knowledge is knowledge. Knowledge without action remains knowledge. Knowledge with action, that's power. that's going to make change. So where are you at? Are you willing to be willing? If you guys don't know, David, whose name is escaping my brain right at the moment, he's been posting. He's great. I'm going to post his stuff because he's brilliant. But he posted yesterday. He's like, "Are you willing to be willing?" David Wolf. Look up his stuff. He's good. He understands food addiction. Are you willing to be willing? Are you willing to get the help you need? Or are you just willing to talk about it? Are you willing just to say, "I'm powerless. There's nothing I can do"? That, "Oh, I'm powerless. What am I supposed to do? It's an addiction. I smoke. What am I supposed to do?" Come on. Get the help you need. Are you going to OA? Are you going to AA? Are you going to Celebrate Recovery? Are you going online to support groups? Are you going to Smart Recovery? What are you doing? The power comes from the doing, not from the lamenting, not from the, "Oh, what am I going to do? I'm powerless." Use the power of the people who have been down the road before you. Okay? So that's all I got. I hope that helped you understand the difference between accepting that you're powerless over a disease and accepting that there is power within a larger group to help you bring out your personal power so that you can really make some progress toward healing, toward being in recovery. All right, so along the lines of healing from addictions, I hope that you are signed up for the Gain While You Lose class, because in there we do a lot of recovery work, a lot of tips and tools and how-tos and digging in deep. I hope you are saving your pennies to attend one of my retreats, because they are going to be here before you know it. And there's one specifically, actually there's two 5-day retreats specific to food addiction. Any of the retreats that you attend are going to deal with recovery tools. All right. Your health, your responsibility, you got to choose. There are days when I just feel very powerless to make a difference in people's lives, but then I remember it's not my responsibility. My responsibility is to remain true to my recovery for today, get the help that I need today through my support friends, through my readings, through reaching out to other people, from going to meetings myself, from reminding myself that, as long as I don't take that first drink or that first puff or that first pill or whatever it is for you, then I'm on the road to recovery. So join me in recovery. I'm offering you lots of ways to do that. One of them being spending your time with me here tonight. And I thank you for doing that. Please thank you yourself for spending this time with me. Get out there and share what you know with other people. And I so love seeing all the wonderful things you guys are posting to help other people, because together we are the power greater than any one of us. And we can be the power collectively that can help each other heal from our addictions. So I will see you tomorrow, the next day, and for sure next Wednesday. If you are not getting your worksheets, make sure that you either email me, go onto my my website, Connie Stapleton PhD, subscribe right down there at the bottom of the first page. You should be getting them. A lot of you who aren't getting them, they're going to your junk file. Look in your junk files. All right, I'll be sending another one out in the next couple of days. So be watching, be waiting. These are all ways that are free to you to help you. And also hang on, I want to check here real quickly. Hang on, one sec. Oh my gosh, I cannot see where the rat's patootie. Um, well, it's Recovery Today magazine. It's free. Can't beat that, right? A lot of good stuff. All right, talk to you soon and make it a good one. Bye.